The Chosen One. Listen carefully, for this message is not intended for everyone. This is for the soul who has experienced it deeply in their spirit. That odd tension in your home. Siblings maintain a deep hush. Taj, the subtle saboteur, clothed as love. This is for the person who tears in secret but grins in front. The one who wonders why my own family seems to be my greatest spiritual adversary. You're not insane. You're not alone. I know you aren't imagining it. Strangers are not always the source of the most devastating strikes. They come from people who are intimately familiar with your experience, worries, and weaknesses. The adversary has investigated your lineage. He understands how to transform comfort into a curse, how to turn affection into a weapon. That is why this communication had to reach you, because Satan is cunning, and one of his preferred entrance points is your family. Before we go any farther, I want you to do something daring and prophetic. If you received this message just when you needed it, enter 1111 in the comment section. Currently, that number is not random. It is a sign that heavenly clarity and awareness are manifesting in your life. And if you haven't already, click the subscribe button. This place serves as a spiritual sanctuary for the selected. Those who refuse to be broken by generational curses, hidden betrayals, or demonic deception masquerading as familial devotion. Let's reveal the enemy's techniques, one by one. 1. They use your empathy as a weapon. You are the kind, forgiving one. The peacemaker. You are the one that enters confrontation with wide arms, who attempts to quiet the storm rather than fueling it. Satan knows this. He examines your tendencies as well as your strengths. So what does he do? He does not go after your weak points. He assaults you where you're vulnerable. He does not hit your fists. He goes for your heart. He instills shame in the lips of your family members. Suddenly, the people you care about start saying things like you've changed or that you're becoming increasingly selfish. All because you said no once. All because you dared to create a barrier. They turn your sympathy into prison. They make you feel as if you're leaving them when you're only choosing yourself. But listen carefully. God did not pick you to be emotionally drained as a sponge. He did not give you the gift of love for others to use as a leash. He gave you empathy to help you distinguish, not drown. The enemy's deadliest tactic is to transform your kindness into a prison. They will weep. They will accuse. They will portray you as the villain for going away. However, remember that your distance, not your affection, poses a danger to their authority. You aren't abandoning them. You are breaking the curse. You are not harsh. You are courageous. And if they genuinely loved you, they would celebrate your limits rather than punishing them. Remember, even Jesus walked away when people did not welcome him. They keep you emotionally locked in the past. Have you ever noticed how certain family members never forget your worst moments? They bring back memories of who you once were. Mistakes happen. Immature judgments. The instances when you yelled, faltered, or failed to reach your full potential. They are handy. Forget your progress, but remember every imperfection. They do it with a grin, a remark, or a passive-aggressive joke at the dinner table. But this isn't simply faulty recollection. It's a premeditated spiritual trap. It's not an accident. It is a weapon. Satan exploits their memories of your past to stymie your progress. Since if you continue to perceive yourself through their old lens, you will be unable to completely embrace your new identity. If they can continually reminding you of who you formerly were, you'll never feel worthy of who you are now. They want you to remain emotionally locked in the role that serves them. A role in which your dependency is broken requires their confirmation, but once picked, you're no longer that version. God has altered you. He has purified you in fire, cleansed your scars, and summoned you to higher ground. They're aware of this at their core. That is why they are fighting it. Because your change presents a threat. If you get up, they lose control. If you develop, the story loses its force. That is why your advancement scares them. It reveals their stagnation. Do not shrink to match their obsolete perception of you. Allow them to talk. Let them remember that you are moving forward. Your past may feel comfortable, but it is no longer your home. 3. They're employed to deplete your spiritual vitality. There are folks in your family who don't just desire your assistance. They seek your spirit. They don't just seek guidance. They seek to tap your holy vitality. You're the one people call when everything falls apart. You're the one who listens for hours, who showed up, who soothes. And while that may appear noble on the surface, examine deeper. Note the pattern. Observe how you feel afterwards. Drained, heavy, and even bewildered. That is no coincidence. Satan is crafty. He does not always send foes in disguise. He sometimes sends individuals you care for in needy disguises, but with spiritual responsibilities to drain you. They do not come to be cured. They came to dump. They yell and moan, telling the same narrative for the 100th time. They do not intend to expand. They aren't seeking for answers. They're seeking for someone who can soak up the pandemonium. And that someone has been you. But, chosen one, you were never intended to be that spiritual dump. Your item is not a public utility. Your energy is sacred. God has given you wisdom, not just to perceive exterior threats, but also to see the underlying motivations behind familiar faces. Love does not imply continual access. Compassion does not entail self-sacrifice. You can be kind without being devoured. Sometimes the most spiritual thing you can say is, I love you, but I can't bear this. Because this is the truth. Every time you surrender your peace to someone who refuses to change, you deprive yourself of the power required for your divine mission. God, it's your life. For they're discreetly competing with you. It begins gently. Leave a comment here, a comparison there. When you succeed, you receive an odd glance. A passive dig. When you share your success, you learn that the people you care about the most, your own family, are not enjoying your improvement. They're comparing it to the brother that constantly attempts to outperform you, the relative who mocks your spiritual quest, the parent who never appears impressed but lavishes praise on others for achieving half as much. You start to wonder why they respond as if my blessings annoy them. The solution goes deeper than jealousy. It is spiritual warfare. The adversary uses comparison to silently murder families. Why? Because it transforms connectivity into competitiveness. Your light doesn't just glow, it confronts. Your obedience brings more than simply blessings. It exposes you, and instead of being motivated by your success, those around you feel intimidated. They favored you when you were uncertain, insecure, and needed their approval. But now that you're walking with purpose, you've become a mirror, reflecting the locations they've avoided. And Satan enjoys it. He discovers that stress leads to division. I hope you'll dim your light to fit in. However, you are not picked to be liked. You were selected to be set aside. Obedience to God can sometimes lead to isolation. Relationships can be lost as a result of personal development. That is not punishment. It is pruning. So let them compete. Allow them to misinterpret. You remain focused because, while others play the game of ego, you are breaking generational curses. And eventually, they'll understand it wasn't a competition. It was a call. 5. They undercut your calling. Sharing a dream with someone you love is terribly unpleasant, only to be met with silence, sarcasm, or complete dismissal. You tell them about your vision, passion, and calling. They laugh. They ridicule it. Or, worse, they give you that icy, patronizing expression that says, "Be realistic." And it stings deep because it is not coming from a stranger. This is your own blood. But hear this. That is not simply an opinion. That is spiritual sabotage. The enemy understands the power of words, especially those said by those closest to us. He understands that a stranger's remark might sting, but a loved one's skepticism can ruin lives. That is why he puts discouragement into the lips of the familiar. When someone close to you dismisses your dream, it raises internal doubts. You start to wonder if you're truly called, or if you're enough, if God actually picked you. And Satan enjoys it because doubt delays destiny. But chosen one, don't let doubts disrupt your heavenly journey. Remember how Noah built the ark when everyone derided him. Joseph had nightmares that turned his brothers against him. Jesus was questioned by his own community. Considerable callings are frequently met with considerable opposition, particularly from individuals who are too terrified to leave their comfort zones. You do not need their consent. You do not need their adulation. You need faith. God does not call the qualified. He qualifies. They called. So God, you have dreams. Speak intelligently and be aware of this. Their uncertainty reveals more about their limits than your potential. 6. They employ emotional blackmail to keep you little. If you truly loved us, you would remain. You have changed. You believe you are superior than us today. These are the guilt-laced daggers that frequently emerge from the mouths of individuals we love the most. But don't be fooled. This is not love. This is manipulation disguised as nostalgia. This is fear wrapped up in tradition. And Satan is an expert at utilizing emotional blackmail to keep selected ones imprisoned in familiar cages. The opponent isn't merely trying to halt your progress. He wants you to feel guilty for even attempting. He knows you adore your family. He understands how fragile your heart is. So he uses that sensitivity as a weapon, turning love into shackles. He wants you to believe that allegiance equals restriction, that respecting your roots entails remaining in the dirt and never flowering. But that is a falsehood. Love is not the same as control. Loyalty should never jeopardize your destiny. God did not make you a prisoner of generational curses. He raised you to be a breaker of rules. Breaking patterns might often include walking away from those who educated you. It entails letting rid of customs that no longer serve reality. It entails being misunderstood, even loathed for the cause of liberty. But let them say anything they want. Allow them to label you haughty, distant, and rebellious. Your development will anger those who prefer your brokenness. That is the cost of becoming. But take heart. The same God who sent you out will accompany you as you enter your promised land, family guilt and all. 7. They act as though you owe them your soul. Have you ever felt as if your development isn't being appreciated, but rather that your recovery is a betrayal? That is no coincidence. It is spiritual. When you succeed, they appear entitled. When you set limits, people become insulted. When you evolve, they murmur. You have changed, as if remaining broken would have been more acceptable. However, this is not typical human behavior. It is spiritual manipulation. The enemy exploits your sense of entitlement to bind you to emotional servitude. They treat your advancement as if it were something you owed them, as if you couldn't move on without their approval. And since they witnessed your agony, they believe they own your peace. But that is a falsehood. You don't tell someone about your life simply because they witnessed your darkness. You do not have to extinguish your spark to appease their anxieties. The fact is that some people loved you more while you were damaged because it made them feel necessary. Control is really important, but healing reveals motivations. Growth shows intents. When you start standing tall, those who used to look down on you feel little. Not because you're tall, but because they never planned for you to ascend. But the selected one, you do not need their approval to be free. You do not need their applause to continue walking. God is calling you higher. And certainly, that trip may upset people who gain from your suffering. But keep going. Your freedom will create the blueprint. Even those who oppose your advancement may one day follow in your footsteps. 8. They push you into positions that you've outgrown. The excellent son and the quiet daughter. The repairer, the peacemaker. These roles are designed to make you predictable, confined, and safe for them. But you have outgrown those positions. You're no longer here to make everyone comfortable. Satan manipulates you into believing that change equals betrayal by using familiar expectations. But it isn't. It is emancipation. Your family may perceive your obedience to God as disobedience, but this is due to their confusion of peace and control. Be open to being misunderstood. 9. When you begin to pray more, they see it as disobedience. They roll their eyes. When you fast, others mock you. When you express spiritual truth, others criticize you of being too deep, strange, or intense. That isn't simply disagreement. That is spiritual resistance. The adversary cannot bear your waking because it reveals the darkness in which they have become comfortable. Your metamorphosis endangers the ghosts they've made peace with. However, do not dull your flames to make devils feel secure. You aren't rebellious. You have awoke. Satan knows when your family ceases being your ceiling. You will become unstoppable. The Chosen One. This was not simply a video. This was both a warning and a confirmation. You're not insane. You're not alone. And you're not weak for being hurt by people closest to you. That was never in God's plan. But remember that everything the adversary used to destroy you, God will use to build you. And the same family that sought to crush you may one day have to see your triumph. Stay strong. Stay alert and protected. This is the Bloom Channel Type 1111. In the comments, if this hit your soul at the perfect time, please subscribe if you haven't already, since more messages like this are on their way. You aren't merely surviving, Chosen One. You're waking up. Thank you for watching.